Lila Monroe vanished after a photo shoot in the Hollywood Hills. Her photographer told her she was his masterpiece. But when police found his camera, the last photo showed her hands raised, begging. Stay till the end, because what happened next will haunt you. What really happened in Lucas Vale's studio that night? The police found the camera, the lights still warm, her purse on the counter. But Lila Monroe was gone. Was she his lover? Or his latest victim? Because here's what they discovered. 3 women before her, all models, all beautiful, all photographed by Lucas Vale, and all of them vanished after their final shoot. Disappeared without a trace. 1 year apart, like clockwork. So who was Lucas Vale? A genius capturing beauty the world had never seen, or a monster hiding behind his art? Why did every muse disappear? What happened in those final sessions? And what was in those photographs that no one else ever got to see? But here's the real question, the one that changes everything. How far would someone go to protect their art, to preserve perfection, to keep a secret buried? And what if the person protecting Lucas Vale wasn't Lucas at all? Before the headlines, before the fear, before Lila Monroe became a name on a missing persons report, it was just 2 dreamers chasing beauty in the city of illusions, Los Angeles, where everyone comes to be seen and some people disappear. Lila Monroe was 28, a rising model, not famous yet, but close. She'd been grinding for years, casting calls, rejections, photo shoots that led nowhere. She was beautiful. Everyone said so. But in LA, beautiful isn't enough. You have to be unforgettable. And Lila was still waiting for someone to see her that way. Then she met him. Lucas Vale, 32 years old, a photographer. But not just any photographer. His work was haunting, raw, intimate. Like he captured something beneath the surface, something you didn't even know was there. His photos sold for thousands, but he avoided fame, rarely gave interviews, never appeared at his own gallery openings. He let the art speak, and it whispered secrets. They met at a small gallery in Silver Lake. Lila was there with friends. Lucas was standing alone in the corner, watching people react to his work. She didn't know who he was at first, but when their eyes met across the room, something shifted. He walked over, didn't introduce himself, just looked at her. Really looked. And then he said, "You have a sadness in your eyes. It's beautiful. Most people try to hide it. You don't." Lila didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like that. "I don't photograph faces," Lucas told her. "I photograph souls. And yours. I'd like to capture it." For Lila, that was the first time she felt truly seen, not for her cheekbones, not for her body, but for something deeper, something real. Within a week, she was in his studio, a loft in the arts district, high ceilings, exposed brick, natural light pouring through massive windows. It felt like a sanctuary. He photographed her for hours, barely speaking, just moving around her with the camera, watching, waiting, clicking. And when he finally showed her the images, Lila couldn't breathe. She'd never looked like that before. Vulnerable, powerful, alive. "This is who you are," Lucas said softly. "This is what I see." She fell for him that day, not just for his talent, but for the way he made her feel, like she was art, like she mattered. They started seeing each other. Photo shoots turned into dinners, dinners turned into late nights turned into mornings in his bed, and soon Lila wasn't just his model. She was his muse, his obsession. He photographed her constantly, at dawn, at dusk, in shadow, in light. "You're different from the others," he'd whisper. "You're perfect." But Lila started noticing things. Small things at first, like how Lucas would delete photos of other women from his portfolio. Not just remove them, delete them entirely, as if they'd never existed. Or how his sister, Clara, would watch them from across the studio. Clara Vale, 34, a painter. Talented but bitter. She lived in the loft too, worked in the back room, and she hated Lila. You could feel it, the way she looked at her, the way she'd slam doors when Lucas was photographing Lila, the way she'd mutter under her breath. Another one, another muse. He never learns. Lila asked Lucas about it once. Clara's just protective, he said. She doesn't trust easily. Our parents died when we were young. It's always just been us. She'll come around. But Clara didn't come around. She got worse. Lila would walk past her studio and see her painting. Violently, thick, angry strokes, dark colors, red, black, crimson, and the subjects, women, always women. Faceless, twisted, trapped in the canvas, it made Lila's skin crawl. Then there was the voicemail. It came 3 weeks into their relationship, from a blocked number, a woman's voice, shaky, urgent. Lila Monroe, I don't know if you'll get this, but if you're seeing Lucas Vale, be careful. He doesn't let go. Once he's done with you, you won't. The message cut off. Lila played it again, and again, her heart pounding. She asked Lucas about it. Probably an ex, he said, barely looking up from his camera. Some people can't handle the breakup. But his jaw was tight, his hands clenched, and for the first time, Lila felt a flicker of doubt. Still, she stayed, because when Lucas looked at her through that lens, she felt alive, like she was becoming the person she was always meant to be. But what Lila didn't know was that Lucas's art always came with a price, and she was about to pay it. It happened on a Tuesday night, October 17th. Lucas called Lila that afternoon. His voice was different, excited, almost breathless. I want to do one more shoot, he said. A final session, just you and me, tonight. Lila hesitated. Something felt off. They'd already done dozens of shoots. Why one more? Why now? It's special, Lucas insisted. I've been planning it for weeks. This will be the one that defines everything. Trust me. And she did. She always did. So at 7 p.m., Lila drove to his studio, the loft in the Arts District. She parked on the street. A neighbor saw her arrive, walking up the stairs, carrying a small bag, wearing a white dress. She looked beautiful, calm. She knocked on the door. Lucas answered, smiled, and she stepped inside. That neighbor was the last person to see Lila Monroe alive. What happened inside that studio? No one knows for sure. But the neighbors heard things. Around 9 p.m., voices, muffled at first, then louder. A woman shouting, "Stop, please stop." Then a man's voice, angry, desperate. "You don't understand. This is for you. This is everything." Then, a crash, glass breaking, and then silence. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. One neighbor called the building manager, but by the time anyone checked, it was too late. The next morning, Lila's phone went dark. No texts, no calls, no social media. Her friends started panicking. Her agent tried reaching her. Nothing. By that afternoon, someone called the police. They went to Lucas's studio, knocked. No answer. They noticed Lila's car. Still parked outside, right where she'd left it the night before. The keys were inside, her purse in the passenger seat. But no Lila. Police forced entry into the studio, and what they found was chilling. The studio was spotless. Too spotless. Not a speck of dust, not a fingerprint. The floors were scrubbed clean. The smell of bleach hung in the air. And in the center of the room, Lucas's camera, still on the tripod, still warm, like it had just been used. The detectives checked the memory card. One photo. The last photo ever taken of Lila Monroe. She's standing against a white backdrop, her eyes wide, her hands raised, like she's trying to block the lens, or reach for help, and behind her, A shadow. Someone standing just out of frame, watching. The timestamp read 9:47 p.m. 17 minutes after the neighbors heard the screaming stop. But here's what made it worse. Lucas Vale was gone. His clothes, his equipment, his car, all gone, like he'd been planning to disappear. And Clara, his sister, also missing. Her studio in the back was empty. Her paintings, the violent, dark ones, all removed, the walls wiped clean. It was like they'd both vanished into thin air. Police searched the building, top to bottom. They found something in the basement, a darkroom, old school, the kind photographers used before everything went digital. And inside, dozens of photographs, hanging on a line, drying, all of Lila. But not from any session she remembered. These were different, intimate, invasive, photos of her sleeping, getting dressed, walking to her car, sitting in a coffee shop. He'd been watching her, for weeks, maybe longer, documenting her every move. And on the wall, a handwritten note in Lucas's handwriting. Perfection cannot be loved, it can only be preserved. The investigation moved fast. They pulled Lucas's bank records. He'd withdrawn $50,000 in cash 2 days before Lila disappeared. His phone had been turned off the night of the shoot. No digital trail, no credit card use, nothing. But then they found something else. In the police database, 3 other women, all models, all photographed by Lucas Vale, all reported missing, 1 year apart, 2019, 2020, 2021. Same pattern every time. A final private shoot, then nothing, and now Lila. 2022. Detective Emma Vaughn took the lead on the case, and she said something that made everyone's blood run cold. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was methodical, planned. He's done this before, and he'll do it again. If you're still watching, comment, "I'm still here." Because the truth is about to take a dark turn, and what comes next will make you question everything you thought you knew about Lucas Vale, about his art, and about the person who was really pulling the strings. The case exploded. Within 48 hours, Lila Monroe's face was everywhere. News channels, social media, billboards, missing model last seen with renowned photographer. The story had everything: beauty, mystery, a vanishing act in the city of dreams. And at the center of it all, Lucas Vale, the charming, reclusive photographer everyone adored. Now suspect number 1. Detective Emma Vaughn led the investigation. 15 years on the force. She'd seen a lot, but this case felt different. "There's no evidence," she told reporters. "No fingerprints, no blood, no sign of struggle. It's like Lila Monroe vanished mid-frame." The media ran with it. Headlines screamed, "The photographer who made women disappear." Art or obsession? Lucas Vale under investigation. 4 models, 4 years, 4 vanishings. Lucas's work was suddenly under a microscope. Every photograph analyzed, every shadow questioned. People started freeze-framing his images, looking for hidden clues, messages, symbols, patterns. Online forums lit up, amateur detectives dissecting every shoot. "Look at her eyes. She looks scared. Why is there always a shadow in the background? He's telling us what he did. It's all in the art." Gallery owners pulled his work from their walls. Collectors demanded refunds, and Lucas Vale was nowhere to be found. The police issued a warrant for his arrest, but he was gone, vanished. Just like his models, they tracked his last known movements. After Lila arrived at the studio that night, Lucas had left around midnight. Security footage from a gas station 2 miles away showed him filling up his car. Alone. Calm. Buying a coffee and a pack of cigarettes. Acting like nothing had happened. That was the last confirmed sighting. His car was found 3 days later, abandoned in a parking lot near LAX. Keys still in the ignition, but no Lucas, no luggage, no plane ticket purchased under his name. He'd simply disappeared. Detective Vaughn interrogated everyone who knew him. Former models, gallery owners, friends, and they all said the same thing. Lucas was intense, but not violent. He loved his work. He'd never hurt anyone. But then they interviewed his ex-girlfriend, a woman named Sophia Reed. She'd modeled for Lucas 4 years ago, before the other women went missing, and she told a different story. "He became obsessed," she said, voice shaking. "At first it was flattering. He wanted to photograph me all the time, but then it got darker. He started showing up at my apartment, unannounced, taking pictures through my window." "Did you report it?" "I tried, but he was careful. No proof, and everyone loved him. Who would believe me?" "What made you leave?" Sophia paused, looked directly at Detective Vaughn. "He told me I was perfect, that he wanted to preserve me, forever. I didn't understand what he meant, but the way he said it..." She shivered. "I ran. And I never looked back." The investigation turned to Clara Vale, Lucas's sister. She was missing too. But unlike Lucas, Clara had left a trail. Her credit card was used at a bus station in San Diego, 2 days after Lila disappeared. Security footage showed her boarding a Greyhound, headed to Mexico. Police tracked her down in Tijuana, living in a cheap motel. They brought her back, and that's when things got interesting. Clara sat across from Detective Vaughn in the interrogation room. Calm. Almost too calm. "Where is your brother?" Vaughn asked. "I don't know." "When did you last see him?" "The night the model disappeared." "Lila Monroe?" "Yes, her." Vaughn leaned forward. "What happened that night, Clara?" Clara smiled. A cold, empty smile. "You think Lucas did something to her?" "Did he?" "Lucas is weak. He's always been weak. He falls in love with every pretty face, gets obsessed, thinks he can save them with his art." "So, what happened?" Clara's smile faded. "I protected him, like I always do." The room went silent. Vaughn felt her pulse quicken. "What does that mean?" "It means Lucas didn't hurt anyone. He couldn't. He loved her too much." "Then where is she?" Clara didn't answer. She just stared at the table. Vaughn tried a different angle. "We found your paintings, Clara. The violent ones. Women. Faceless. Trapped." Clara looked up. "Art is expression, Detective. It doesn't mean anything. 3 other women disappeared after modeling for your brother. Same pattern, same timeline, and now Lila. That's not a coincidence." Clara leaned back. "You're looking at the wrong person." "Then help me understand." "You want to find Lila Monroe?" Clara said quietly. "Go back to the studio. Check the basement. The locked door Lucas refused to open." Detective Vaughn went back that same day. They'd already searched the studio, top to bottom, but they'd never gotten past the basement door. It was steel, reinforced. Lucas had claimed it was a storage closet, nothing important. He'd refused to provide a key. Now, with Clara's words echoing in her mind, Vaughn ordered it opened. They brought in a battering ram. It took 3 hits. The door flew open, and the smell hit them immediately. Chemicals, paint thinner, something else, something metallic. Vaughn descended the stairs, flashlight cutting through the darkness, and what she found made her stomach turn. The room was large, concrete walls, no windows, and covering every surface, photographs, hundreds of them. All of the missing women, not just Lila, all 4 of them. But these weren't normal photos. They were different, layered, distorted, like they'd been manipulated, cut apart and reassembled, faces blurred, bodies fragmented. And in the center of the room, a table with tools, scalpels, razors, scissors, and next to them, pieces of photographs, cut into tiny squares like a puzzle that had been taken apart, never to be whole again. On the wall, written in red paint, "Perfection is eternal, love is not." But here's what made it worse. They found blood. Not much, just traces. In the grout between the concrete tiles, DNA testing confirmed it. It belonged to one of the missing women. The first one. From 2019. Her name was Ashley Grant. She'd been 24, a model, photographed by Lucas Vale, last seen at a private shoot, and now, they knew she'd been in that basement. But where was she now? Where were any of them? The case went national. FBI got involved. They dug into Lucas's past, his finances, his travel, his entire life, and they found something. Lucas and Clara's parents hadn't just died. They'd been murdered. A home invasion when Lucas was 14 and Clara was 16. The killer was never caught. After that, the siblings were inseparable. Clara became fiercely protective. Lucas retreated into his art. A psychologist reviewed the case files. Clara likely suffered severe trauma, she explained. She may have developed an unhealthy attachment to her brother. Protective, possessive. She might see other women as threats. Detective Vaughn asked the question everyone was thinking. Could Clara have killed them? To protect Lucas? It's possible, or what? They could have done it together. Anonymous tips started flooding in. Someone claimed they saw Lila in Las Vegas, working as a cocktail waitress, alive. Police investigated. It was a dead end. Wrong person. Another caller said they'd seen Lucas in Mexico City, living under a fake name, also false. But then, they found something real. A burned photograph, discovered in a dumpster 3 blocks from the studio. Forensics pieced it together. It showed half of Lila's face, her eyes wide, mouth open, like she was screaming, and in the corner, a hand, holding a paintbrush, not a camera, a paintbrush. Detective Vaughn went back to Clara. Tell me about the paintings. I already did. No, tell me what you did with them. Clara's expression didn't change. I don't know what you mean. You painted them, didn't you? The missing women, not Lucas. You. Silence. Where are they, Clara? Nothing. Where are the bodies? Clara finally looked up, and she said something that made Vaughn's blood run cold. There are no bodies, detective. What does that mean? Clara smiled. It means they're art now, and art is forever. When investigators finally searched the basement, what they found changed everything. They expected to find evidence of Lucas's crimes, his obsession, his darkness, but what they discovered told a completely different story. The walls were covered in portraits, hundreds of them. But they weren't of the missing models. They were of Clara. Clara as a child, Clara as a teenager, Clara as a woman, every age, every angle, every moment of her life. And they were all painted. Not photographed, painted, by her own hand. Self-portraits, obsessive, meticulous, haunting. But here's what made them disturbing. Every single one had been defaced, scratched, torn, painted over, eyes gouged out, faces crossed through, words scrawled across them in angry, jagged letters. Not good enough. He doesn't see me. Always her, never me. Detective Vaughn stood there, surrounded by Clara's rage. And suddenly, everything clicked. Clara wasn't just part of Lucas's life. She was the reason it fell apart. They pulled her phone records, her computer, her journals, and what they found was chilling. Clara had been tracking every woman Lucas photographed, every model, every muse, every face that caught his attention. She had files on all of them, photos, addresses, schedules, routines. She knew where they lived, where they worked, what coffee shops they visited. She'd been following them, watching them, and one by one, making them disappear. Ashley Grant, 2019, the first to vanish. Clara's journal entry from that week. He called her perfect today. Perfect. He's never called me that. I've been here his whole life. I raised him, protected him, and he calls her perfect. She doesn't deserve him. None of them do. Melissa Park, 2020. Journal entry. Another one. Another beautiful distraction. He spends hours with her. Hours he used to spend with me. I watched her leave the studio tonight, smiling. Like she'd won something, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know what happens to the ones who steal his attention. Vanessa Cole, 2021. Journal entry. He told her she was his muse. His muse. I am his muse. I've always been his muse. But he doesn't paint anymore. He only photographs. And they get all of him. Every ounce of his talent, his passion, his love. While I sit in the back room, invisible, forgotten. And then, Lila Monroe, 2022. The journal entry from the day she met Lucas. I saw the way he looked at her, like she was light itself, like she was everything. He's falling in love with her, I can see it, and I can't let that happen. I won't lose him. Not to her, not to anyone. Detective Vaughn read through every entry, and the pattern became clear. Clara wasn't just jealous, she was consumed by the need to be seen. By Lucas. Only Lucas. He was all she had left after their parents died, and she couldn't share him, wouldn't share him. Every woman who entered his life was a threat, and Clara eliminated threats. But here's the revelation that shattered everything. Lucas knew. He'd known for years. They found emails between Lucas and Clara from 2019, right after Ashley Grant disappeared. Lucas wrote, "What did you do, Clara?" Clara replied, "I protected us. She was going to take you away from me. I couldn't let that happen." Lucas, "You can't do this. This isn't right. We have to tell someone." Clara, "Tell them what? That you're complicit? That you helped me clean up? That you drove her car to the airport and left it there? You think they'll believe you didn't know? You're in this as deep as I am, Lucas. We protect each other. We always have." And that's when it hit Detective Vaughn. Lucas wasn't the monster. He was the shield. For years, he'd been covering Clara's crimes, destroying evidence, creating alibis, lying to police, all to protect his sister, his last piece of family, his last piece of love. But why? Why would he do that? A psychiatrist explained it to Vaughn. Trauma bonding. After their parents were killed, Lucas and Clara only had each other. She became his protector, his mother figure, and he became hers. That bond, it's unbreakable, even when it's toxic. So he knew she was killing these women? Yes, but he couldn't turn her in, because in his mind, losing Clara would be like losing his parents all over again. He'd rather be complicit than be alone. Vaughn felt sick. So he sacrificed them, all of them. Yes, to save her. But protecting Clara meant sacrificing everyone else, including Lila. That night at the studio, when Lila arrived for the final shoot, Clara was waiting. Lucas didn't know. He'd set up the session, the lights, the camera. He thought it would be just another shoot, but Clara had other plans. The neighbors heard arguing. "Stop, please stop." That was Lila, begging, not Lucas, Clara, and Lucas's voice. "You don't understand. This is for you. This is everything." He wasn't talking to Lila. He was talking to Clara, trying to stop her. But it was too late. The crash they heard, the glass breaking, that was Lucas, trying to intervene, trying to save Lila. But Clara was stronger than he thought, fueled by years of jealousy, years of rage, and when it was over, Lucas helped her cover it up. One last time, he cleaned the studio, scrubbed the floors, erased every trace, and then he ran. Not because he was guilty, but because he couldn't live with what he'd done, what he'd allowed to happen. Again. Detective Vaughn looked at Clara across the interrogation table. "Where is Lila Monroe?" Clara stared back, empty, cold. "She's where she belongs." "And where is that?" "With the others, in my art, forever." Vaughn slammed her hand on the table. "Tell me where they are." Clara didn't flinch. "You want to find them, detective? Then you'll have to find Lucas, because he's the only one who knows where I put them." Why would he know? Clara smiled. That same cold, broken smile. Because he helped me bury every single one. 6 months later. The trial began. The courtroom was packed. Media. Families of the missing women. True crime fans. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted justice. But what they got was something far more twisted. Lucas Vale was found 3 weeks after Clara's arrest, living under a fake name in a small town in Oregon, working at a coffee shop, growing a beard, dyeing his hair, trying to disappear into a normal life. But you can't outrun what you've done. When police arrested him, he didn't resist. He just looked tired, broken, like he'd been waiting for this moment. In court, Lucas sat silent for days, staring at his hands, refusing to speak. His lawyer entered a plea of not guilty, but everyone knew the truth was more complicated than that. Finally, on day 4, Lucas took the stand, and he confessed, partially. "I knew what Clara was doing," he said, voice hollow. "I knew after Ashley, after the first one. Clara came to me that night, covered in paint, shaking. She told me she'd done something terrible, that she'd hurt someone to protect me." The courtroom was silent. "What did you do?" the prosecutor asked. "I helped her hide it. I drove Ashley's car to the airport, made it look like she'd left town. I deleted evidence, scrubbed the basement. I told myself it was a one-time thing, that Clara was just confused, hurting, that she'd never do it again. But she did. Yes. And you helped her, every time." Lucas closed his eyes. "I couldn't lose her. She's all I had left. After our parents died, Clara was the only person who stayed, the only person who understood me. I thought I could control it. I thought I could keep other women safe by keeping them away from me. But then, Lila," his voice broke. "Lila was different. I loved her, really loved her. And Clara knew, she could see it. And that's why she—" He couldn't finish. Then it was Clara's turn. She walked to the stand calmly, dressed in all black, hair pulled back. She looked normal, almost serene. The prosecutor started gently. "Clara, can you tell us what happened the night Lila Monroe disappeared?" Clara nodded. "Lucas invited her for a shoot. He was obsessed with her, more than the others. I could see it in his eyes, the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the world." "And that bothered you?" "Of course it did. I'd given him everything, my entire life. I raised him after our parents died. I sacrificed everything for him, my own art, my own dreams, and he threw it all away for these girls." Her voice turned sharp. "Girls who didn't know him, didn't care about him. They just wanted to be in his photos, to be famous, to use him." "Is that why you hurt them?" Clara's eyes flashed. "I didn't hurt them. I freed them. I removed them from his life so he could focus on what mattered, on us, on his real art." "And what happened to Lila?" Clara paused, looked directly at Lucas. "She came to the studio that night. Lucas was setting up the shoot, and I confronted her, told her to leave, that she was ruining everything, but she wouldn't listen. She said she loved him, that they were going to be together." Clara's hands clenched. "So I showed her the truth. I showed her the basement, the paintings, the other women. What happens when you take what's mine?" "What did you do to her, Clara?" "I made her understand that Lucas was mine, that he would always be mine, and that she was just another face, another frame, nothing permanent." The prosecutor stepped closer. "Where is Lila Monroe?" Clara smiled, that cold, empty smile. "Ask Lucas. He's the one who took the final photograph." The courtroom erupted. Lucas stood up, shaking his head. "That's not true. I tried to stop you. I tried to save her." Clara turned to him. "You took the picture, Lucas. You always take the picture, even when you don't want to, even when you know what it means, because you can't help yourself. You have to capture it, the fear, the beauty, the final moment." Lucas collapsed back into his chair. And in that moment, Everyone realized the truth. Clara was trying to shift the blame, to make Lucas the monster. But the prosecutor wasn't done. "Clara, you said Lucas took the final photograph. What does that mean?" Clara leaned back. "It means he documented everything, every woman, every moment. He couldn't help himself. It's who he is, an artist, always capturing, always preserving. And where are those photographs now? You'll have to ask him." That's when the prosecutor revealed the final piece of evidence, an SD card, found hidden in Lucas's camera, the one left at the studio, the one that had been sealed as evidence. They'd finally cracked the encryption, and what they found changed everything. The courtroom went dark, a screen lowered, and the video began to play. It's footage from Lucas's camera, night vision, grainy, but clear enough. The timestamp reads October 17th, 2022, 9:34 p.m. Lila is in the studio, standing against the white backdrop. She looks confused. "Lucas, what's going on? Why is Clara here?" The camera doesn't move, but you can hear Lucas's voice, off camera, shaking. "Clara, please, don't do this." Clara steps into frame, holding something, a syringe. "She doesn't love you, Lucas. She loves what you can give her, the photos, the fame. But I love you. I've always loved you." Lila backs away. "What is that? Lucas, help me, please." "Clara, stop. We can figure this out. We don't have to." "Yes, we do!" Clara lunges. The camera shakes. You hear struggling, Lila screaming, Lucas shouting, and then the frame steadies. Lila is on the ground, not moving. Clara is standing over her, breathing hard, and Lucas is holding the camera, still filming. Clara turns to him. "Take the picture, Lucas. She's perfect now, isn't she? No more words, no more lies, just beauty." Lucas's voice is barely a whisper. "What did you do?" "What I had to. Now take the picture. Preserve her, like you do with everything." And he does. The shutter clicks. One final photograph. Lila's face, eyes wide, frozen in fear, and then the screen goes black. The courtroom was silent. You could hear people crying. Clara sat there, unmoved. Lucas was sobbing, his head in his hands. The prosecutor spoke. "The video doesn't end there. It continues for another 17 minutes, showing Lucas and Clara wrapping Lila's body, cleaning the studio, planning their escape." She turned to the jury. "Lucas Vale may not have killed these women with his own hands, but he documented every moment. He preserved their final seconds, and he helped dispose of their bodies. He is not innocent. He is complicit, and that makes him just as guilty." The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Clara Vale, guilty on all counts. 4 counts of first-degree murder. Lucas Vale, guilty of being an accessory after the fact, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. But the question remained. Where were the bodies? Clara refused to tell, even when offered a deal. "They're art now," she said, "and art doesn't need to be found. It just needs to exist." But Lucas finally broke, 2 weeks after sentencing. He gave up the location, a remote property in Northern California, owned by their late parents, abandoned for years. Police excavated the site, and they found them, all 4 women, buried in a field behind the house, each one wrapped in canvas, like paintings, like art. In the end, one confession shattered everything. Lucas's masterpiece wasn't a photograph. It was a lie he told himself, that he was protecting his sister, that he was preserving love. But the truth? He was preserving death. And that single photo of Lila, her eyes staring into the lens, wide with terror, would haunt the art world forever. It was never released to the public, but those who saw it said the same thing. You can see it in her eyes. She knew what was coming, and she was asking him, begging him, to save her. But he didn't. He took the picture instead. When love turns into obsession, when beauty becomes control, where does art end and madness begin? Lucas Vale had an answer. From his prison cell, he wrote one final letter, It was never sent, but investigators found it. It read, "I thought I was capturing beauty, but all I ever captured was pain. Clara was right about one thing. I couldn't stop, even when I knew it was wrong, even when I knew she would kill again. I kept taking pictures, because that's all I know how to do. Observe, document, frame the world, but never change it, never save anyone. I'm not a monster. I'm worse. I'm a witness who did nothing." Clara Vale is serving 4 consecutive life sentences, no possibility of parole. She spends her days painting in her cell, the same images over and over, faceless women, trapped in red and black. Lucas Vale is serving 25 years. He doesn't paint, he doesn't photograph, he just sits, staring at the walls, haunted by the faces he framed, but never saved. And Lila Monroe? Her final photograph was never displayed, never sold, never seen by the world, but it exists, locked away in an evidence locker, a reminder that beauty can be deadly, that obsession can destroy, and that sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one holding the weapon, it's the one holding the camera. In the end, Lucas Vale's photos sold for millions. After the trial, after the convictions, collectors came out of nowhere, wanting his work. The controversy made him famous, infamous. His photographs now hang in private collections around the world, worth more than they ever were when he was free. But every buyer says the same thing. There's something in the eyes, in every portrait. You can feel them staring back, like they're trying to tell you something, like they're trapped. Maybe they are. So now I want to ask you something, because this story, it's not simple, and I want to know what you think. Do you believe Lucas was protecting his sister, that he was a victim of trauma and loyalty, that he couldn't escape the bond they had after their parents died? Or do you think he was hiding his own guilt, that he was just as obsessed as Clara, that he used her as a shield while he documented every horrible moment? Comment Lucas if you think he was trying to protect his sister. Comment Clara if you think Lucas was just as guilty as she was. Because here's the thing. Some people say Lucas was a coward, that a real man would have turned Clara in after the first murder, that he chose his comfort over those women's lives, but others say he was a broken man, that he'd already lost everything once, and he couldn't bear to lose the only family he had left, even if it meant becoming a monster himself. So which side are you on? Team Lucas, the broken protector, or Team Clara, because maybe he manipulated her into doing his dirty work? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to see where you stand. And here's another question. Would you risk your freedom for family? If someone you loved, your sister, your brother, your parent, committed a crime, would you cover for them? Would you lie to the police? Would you help them hide the evidence, even if it meant innocent people suffered? Even if it meant you'd lose everything? Comment yes if you'd protect your family no matter what. Comment no if you'd turn them in. Because this isn't just a story. This is a question we all have to answer. Where's the line? When does loyalty become complicity? When does love become destruction? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And if you thought the photographer's secret was dark, if this story kept you up at night, then you need to hear what happened next. Because there's another case, another woman, another obsession. It's called